Hello YouTube, welcome back. This is Froogle and here we are at 22,000 feet in the Flight 1 Super King Air B200 en route to Passy, Papa Alpha Sierra India. However, we just got a call and we're going to go and divert to Juneau, Papa Alpha Juliet November. You know that because you watched the previous two parts of this series. Anyway, what we're going to do is we're going to measure that, we're going to program this all in over here on the G1000. But first, before we do that, because we're going to change the route and we are flying in nav mode, if we start clicking stuff and changing stuff, the aircraft will start moving in directions we don't want it to move in. So what we will do first is make sure our heading bug, which is over here, is aligned with our heading. We do that by clicking the heading knob. That centers it. And at this point, we will press heading mode. Heading mode is enabled, we're all good. Now we can go down to the G1000, bring up our handy dandy keypad. Now, Kurt in his tutorial published the charts for Juneau, and we know that our approach, our initial waypoint on approach is SSR, Sierra Sierra Romeo. So we're going to do a direct to SSR. Here's how we do that. Click on the direct to symbol, and then just type in SSR. What could be easier? Now at that point, you'll see that it jumps down the bottom here, it says activate. We will say yes. And we have an arrow now pointing off to the right. Okay, on the AFCS now, the autopilot flight controller, we will turn the heading knob until it's 15 degrees to the right of that to try to intercept that course. So, that way, you can see over here, it's about 15 degrees to the right. Once the aircraft stabilizes on its new heading, we'll engage nav mode. So we're going to intercept the course inbound to SSR. So just waiting for the turn. Once it's stabilized, by the way, we'll actually start our descent and we'll replan the route to Juneau in the descent. Nothing like multitasking. Okay, looking at the artificial horizon here, it's coming level. So as the aircraft rolls level now, we'll engage nav mode. And then we'll pop over to the primary flight display, bring up the auto flight system overlay here, and set our descent. We're going to descend at about 1,500 feet per minute. So we click VS to enable vertical speed mode once, and then start rolling this down to 1,500. Let's try that once again. No, we don't. We're going to set our new altitude, my apologies, of 6,000 feet first. Otherwise VS won't work. There's those click spots killing me again. Okay, having done that, VS, and we get down to 1,500 feet. Now, straight away, instantly, we need to pull back the power or we will overspeed. I'm going to bring the power levers back to 80%. We might get an alerter about low power, which is normal. And remember, there's quite some lag on these power levers. So you need to move them a little bit and watch, move them a little bit and watch until you get familiar with the aircraft and start to remember exactly where the levers need to be for certain power settings. It's a good idea if you're going to spend a lot of time flying this to actually mark with tape or something on your throttle quadrants the position of the throttle for 91.3 on takeoff, 80% on descent. There we are. So let's leave that as it is. And we will go ahead now and mess with our course. So the way we do that, bring up the keypad, click on the flight plan, press the knob here to activate the cursor, and then we're going to scroll down to Yak, because we're going to enter a waypoint just above Yak. So click to the bottom right to activate the entry, and type in here SSR. That's our first waypoint. Enter, it gets inserted just above Yak. Now our next waypoint is actually Juliana, so we'll left click to the right again and put in Papa, Alpha, Juliet, November. There's Juliana. There are two of them. We're going to choose the second one and enter. All that remains now is to actually delete these last three waypoints, which we can do very simply by clicking clear 3 times. Clear, 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 and then click flight plan to return to the map page. Let's make the range on this a little bit bigger so we can see what's going on. We need to set cabin pressurization now. We're going to set the landing field elevation plus 500. Landing field elevation is 26 feet, so we can basically set 500 feet. So we'll go ahead and do that. Like so. Check that the dial shows we're in descent, and we are. We should probably dial up ATIS at this point and find out what the barometric is in Juliana. I'm using Active Sky Next. It's aware of where we're flying to, so I can just dial this in over here. So 122.2. Or is it 1.22.02? There we go. Switch that over and wait for ATIS.
Papa Alpha Juliet November airport information Mike 0153 Zulu weather wind calm visibility 10 sky clear temperature 2 dew point -3 altimeter 29903 advise on initial contact you have information Mike Papa Alpha Juliet November airport information Mike 0.
So we set the barometric 29903. What we now need to do is set up our radios ready for actual approach. Now there are two ways to do this. We can use the G1000 to actually set our whole approach in that way. I will show you how to do that in a second, or we can use the radios. I'm going to show you that as well because we are actually going to use the radios. But to set up the radios first of all, I'm going to set nav1 to 109.9er. There's 109.9er, that is SSR. We're going to set nav2 to 114.0. So click on the button in the middle, 114.00. And flick that over. Sorry, nav1 is set actually to Juliana, to the ILS. And the other one is set to SSR. So we're all good there. Let me show you now how to set up the approach using the G1000. Pop over here, bring up our keypad once again. This time, instead of pressing flight plan, we're going to press the proc or procedure key. And it automatically says, do you want to select an approach? So we will say yes and click the enter button. It now gives us a list of approaches we can fly. We're going to fly the LDA 08X LNAV plus V approach. So we'll scroll down. That'll be that one. Hit enter. Now we have an option of the transition. We can be vectored by ATC, but that's not going to happen. We're actually flying via SSR, so we'll just scroll down to SSR, enter. Now we have a choice. We can either load it or we can activate it. Loading it puts it on the end of your existing flight plan. Activating it makes it active right now. We are going to activate it right now. So we'll just scroll this over to activate and click on enter. It is now activated. If we change the range up, there we are. So that's our approach. Now, having set the approach using the G1000, we're actually going to fly it using the radios instead. Here's how we do that. We'll set the G1000 up to track what we're doing. So what we're going to do is, over here, we'll press the flight plan. We'll find the first leg of our approach, which is basically the lens leg. Okay, no, we won't. The first thing we will actually do is engage heading mode. So we'll center this once again. That's centered now. heading mode. Now we'll do it the other way. So down here, flight plan is already active. Click on that. Gives us our cursor. Scroll down to Lins. Click on, at this point, menu. Now you've got a choice here. You can store the flight plan or activate it or whatever you want. We are going to activate that leg. That leg is now activated. Let's go back over to our PFD at this point. We'll bring up the AFCS. And we're going to do what we did on takeoff. So we're going to use press the OBS soft key for Omni Bearing Selector. And we're going to use the course knob to set a course of 007. Which basically says we're going to fly to intercept the 007 radial to SSR. Now having done that, let us take a look at where we are. Let's get rid of the flight plan display here if we can. Alright, so this is the course that we want to intercept. So just as we did on takeoff, we're going to engage nav mode now. We're going to fly the heading that we're on until we intercept this. That will turn us on course on the 007 radial into SSR. All we can do now is wait for us to turn on course. Once we turn on course, we'll descend down to 5600, which is our minimum safe altitude. We'll turn off OBS mode so that the G1000 shows us our actual flight path, our planned route, and we'll do the next part. Notice as we descend, power of the engines is coming up, the air is getting thicker. So we're just going to pull the power levers back once again to get us down to 80%. That would be Juneau, I think, over here. Now we're under 10,000 feet, so let's turn these landing lights on. There's our alert up at 6,000 feet. Now you're going to see a neat little, not trick here, but a neat side effect of how we set everything up. We have our engines at 80%. We were descending, so we had a good rate of speed. As we level off, the speed will drop exactly where we want it to be. Alright, here's our turn now onto that radial. So let's disable the OBS mode. Brings our flight plan back, and we're looking now for Lins. As we level out of this turn now, what we're going to do is set up the approach for the localizer. just waiting for the turn to level off. There it is. We're going to set our altitude alerter now down to 5,600 feet, minimum safe altitude. So lower left clicking here, like so, and we'll put a nice gentle descent in here as well. Like so. Now as we get closer to this intersection, which is the final approach over here to Juneau, let's start setting up the radios and the navigation aids once again. So as before, press the heading button to set heading. That's all set. We will engage heading mode now. And then on our PFD, we're going to dial in a course of 071 and make sure our CDI is now set not to GPS but to VOR1. So there's our localizer, and the course that we want to get, that's the wrong keypad, is 071. Like so. With that all done, we'll press nav mode once again. And we are now set up to intercept the localizer into Juneau. You can see why 5,600 is minimum safe altitude. Those mountain peaks are getting very close. Checking the wings now for ice. We've not done that in a while. Everything's looking good. Now when we intercept the localizer, we will actually start our descent down to 3,700 feet. So the way we're going to do that is once we intercept, we're going to set our alerter down to 3,700 feet, press the VS key one time to put us into vertical speed mode, and set a descent of 1,000 feet per minute. At that point, we will also set the flaps to approach and lower the landing gear. Then we'll just be messing with the power to try to maintain 140 knots out to Barlow. You can see Barlow right here. Let me go closer in down here. Here's Barlow, 140 knots at Barlow. And we should be pretty much established. And we are going to get warnings about low power. We can cancel those warnings down here. There's a gear warning horn that we can turn off if we need to. And we're going to be trying to maintain our final approach at or above, slightly above 121 knots indicated airspeed. Now this is a fairly steep approach. Bear that in mind. Normally we'd be descending about 600, 700 feet per minute from Barlow to the runway. We're going to be doing about 1,000 feet per minute from Barlow. So 3,600 down to Barlow, then down 3,200 after Barlow. At that point we can pretty much think about disabling the autopilot. We will turn the engine anti-ice on when we hit Barlow as well to be safe. And then after Barlow it's going to be flaps down to 100%, yaw damper up here off, which is basically autopilot off, and manual from that point in. I hope. Wish us luck. See, it's calling out turn right now, you see that? It's calling out the turn because of the GPS flight plan that we had, the G1000 flight plan. We're not going to turn, we're waiting to intercept the localizer. Here it goes. So bring up the AFCS, set our altitude now to 3,600 feet, sorry, 3,700 feet. $3,600. VS once, 1,000 feet per minute. Flaps to approach. And gear down. We're going to change the range on the G1000 to give us a better view of what's going on. There's our master caution, that's normal. Engine anti-ices can go on now. There's the runway. Going to try to maintain 140 knots, so just keeping an eye on this. Might need to increase the power to bring that back up. Okay, a little bit more power now. Not a lot. Thousand feet to go to 3,600. About to cross Barlow, so we'll go down to the PFD again. On the AFCS, we'll set a new altitude now of 3,200. And again, vertical speed of 1,000 feet per minute. Very steep approach. A bit more power now, just a tiny bit. At this point, auto feather can go armed, prop sync off. All we're waiting for now is to make sure our landing is assured, then it'll be full flaps and manual for the landing. The aircraft does have a tendency to float. You do need to manage the speed, get it down to about 121 as you pass the threshold. More power, speed is dropping there quite a lot more than we want. And I think from where we're at, yeah, landing is definitely assured right now, so your damper off. Full flaps. My aircraft. So trim the aircraft. Notice it ballooned there as we went to full flaps. Keep it trimmed. Manage your power. And your speed. Do not forget the lag on the power. It can take a few seconds for the power to come back to where you want it to be. Hand flying this aircraft is actually very nice. It's very, very responsive, very smooth. Flight One have done a really good job on modeling this. I think. I don't have any experience with the B200, but it feels like I guess a B200 Super King Air would. Very powerful, very agile. Oh, a little bit of low cloud there in the mist. And you can see it's kind of an offset approach. We are going to ignore that a little bit and go slightly to the left of the lights. Normally you would fly in here and then turn right at the last minute. We will put that down to our noobness. Let's take a look at those wings since we're in mist. Good, no ice yet. Quite a long runway here in Juneau, plenty of room to stop. You do have full beta range on this, basically reverses if you need them. We probably won't need them. Right, easing up on the power gently now. A little bit high, so really reducing the power at this point. We shouldn't get any alerters at this point. The alerter you normally get is the gear not being down and power too low. Our gear is down, our flaps are down. Landing lights are on. Engine anti-ice is on. Auto feather is armed. Prop sync is off. Runway in sight. Really coming off the power now as the speed starts to climb. Quite a steep descent, as I said. Trying to aim for about 121 on the speed as we cross the threshold. Scenery here is Orbx, Juneau.
Pull 500. Pull up. Sink rate.
And warning is normal. We do have quite a horrendous sink rate going on because it was quite a steep approach. We are high at this point,
sink rate.
which again is just fine.
Up. Pull up. Pull up. Pull up. Pull up. Pull up.
Right, speed is dropping a little bit lower than we wanted it to be at this point, but that's fine. And we're down. So props towards the beta range now. Let the speed come off. Hold my line a little bit, got a little bit squirrely there in the end. Try not to stand on the brakes. The B200 is very vicious on the brake pads. And as you saw in part 1, they're expensive. See, didn't even have to go full beta. We're going to stop with plenty of room to spare. Haven't hit the brakes at all yet. Haven't even put the reverse on. Not a problem at all. So with all that done, landing lights off. Whoops. Taxi lights on. Speed is now good. We're at a good speed. We're under the speed limit for taxiing around. A little bit of power just to keep some momentum in there, and we'll turn off. So in summary, like I said, not really a first impressions, not really a review. I never did a review of the NGX, and I think the reason I never did a review of the NGX is I don't think anybody really, unless they've got time in one, is qualified to review it. It's such a complex aircraft. Same with this. This is a phenomenally complex aircraft, and I challenge any of you, I don't care how many hours you've got in the NGX or even the 777, to jump in this and consider it a breeze. It's very complicated. There's a lot of stuff to do, especially with the G1000 in there and balancing the radios, the various autopilot modes, the G1000 navigation. It is a complex, complicated aircraft. It represents a wonderful stepping stone from the simpler aircraft up to multi-engine aircraft and jets. This is a multi-engine aircraft. That was a stupid thing to say, but you know what I mean. It's a good stepping stone from the more simple aircraft, say a Cessna or even a Baron, up to jets, because it is so complex. It has a really high ceiling of operation. It can cruise in the jet lanes. It's very fast, and it flies like a dream. I really like this aircraft. Anyway, I'm not going to let you sit all the way through the taxi. That's kind of boring, taxiing back and then turning off. Everything just goes very quiet when you turn everything off. Thank you for watching. As always, my name is Froogle. Do click on that subscribe button if you're not currently a subscriber, and let me know in the comments section below. Do you know of any other aircraft as complex as this that is not a jet? I'd love to hear it. See you soon.